To start off, so it's a bit wordy. So designing, developing, and delivering the new UKHSA data dashboard. And fundamental to that is following a user-centered approach to building an inclusive, simple, and accessible product. So it feels like a bit of a deviation away from everyone else's presentations, but I really love kind of if this resonates and people feel there are kind of concepts related to their work, so ideas from kind of One Health or ideas about tackling zoonoses, please do, I encourage you to get in touch. I'd love to hear your inputs, your thoughts, and things like that. But without further ado, let's begin. Sorry, I got a notification. So kind of the objectives of things I wanted to discuss around iterating on the success of the COVID-19 dashboard, which has been developed by the UKHSA, building services in a way that follows standards and best practices set across government. So that's the GovUK design system, for example, and the service standard. And then lastly, around establishing a team that follows the DDAT structure and user-centered approach. So these are really key to building a team and something that we've really been challenged by within UKHSA. So hopefully we can discuss that today. So starting with lessons from the COVID-19 dashboard and that response, what we've taken from it. So I've summarized it here with these titles. So profiling our users, understanding who the dashboard users are, how has the user base changed over time, and what do users expect to see in the dashboard. Next is around understanding interest in new topics over time. So which are the areas of growing importance to our users around healthcare information? Next is collecting feedback on the current dashboard. So do users find the information that they need from that around particularly COVID, but also now what we're looking at with the new dashboard around respiratory viruses? And so do users understand the data and are they able to create a coherent narrative around that? Next is monitoring trust and satisfaction over time. So this is a key one around one of the GDS standards in terms of measuring success around kind of trust. But also this was one of the issues with the existing dashboard, creating a service and dashboard that users really trust and see the value of. And lastly is around understanding user behavior and feelings. So how does the dashboard make users feel and act? And so these are really key concepts that hopefully I'll cover throughout the presentation. Next is around understanding users' needs. So as a user-centered design team, I've tried to summarize that in this diagram. Apologies if this seems quite complex, but again, hopefully I'll go through that during the presentation. And so the two things that are covered here are around methods, so user research methods, and also the types of participants that are involved in those user research activities. So methods, those include things like unmoderated testing, moderated testing, so that's things like one-on-one interviews, activities like card sorting, internal workshops, and lastly, surveys. So the recent survey that we sent out had over 5,000 responses, which is quite an encouraging amount, and we get quite a good amount of contextualized data and insights from that. And when it comes to participants, that's included quite a lot. So we have internal stakeholders, so that's participants from within the UKHSA and some other bodies as well within government, some users of the COVID-19 dashboard, so that's academics, local authorities, epidemiologists, internal users, and so on. And then lastly, also non-users of the COVID-19 dashboard. So maybe people that aren't familiar with the COVID-19 dashboard, what would they expect to see it, and how can we do a better job to maybe bring them around to becoming an active user? So next is a discussion around the approach to design. Again, there's quite a few bits to this, so I'll try to discuss that. So first of all, when designing this dashboard, an audit of the existing dashboard, the COVID-19 dashboard, was conducted to get a better understanding of the existing features and ultimately achieve feature parity. So things that were in the existing dashboard, I wanted to make sure that we also had those in the new dashboard. And so points laid out in the existing dashboard's accessibility statement were also used to highlight improvements needed. So that's around access to data, but also making sure that users can understand the data. And that's one of the key things for me. It's not just the case of presenting data, but making sure that our users can actually understand it and see what it means. Following that, it was kind of using those insights from the audit to contextualize how the dashboard should really look. in order to meet accessibility standards. So for our understanding, the COVID-19 dashboard did not really closely follow GovUK components, patterns, and styles. And so one of the key aims with designing this new dashboard has been to ensure consistency with best practices laid out in the GovUK design system and toolkit. So things like stakeholder mapping were conducted to highlight relevant internal and external users, and some of those I've mentioned before. And involving these users in the research was fundamental to getting a better understanding of user needs and incorporating these insights into the design iterations. So personas, which we'll look at next, were used to gain a greater understanding of stakeholder needs and guide the design process. So this looks like quite a blank slide, but it's gone through quite an amount of iteration. These are just some of the 6 personas that we have, but within those, there's quite a lot captured. So we have things like inquiring citizens. So this would be casual visitors who search for unbiased facts about topical health issues. And that's different to maybe an expert analyst, who is someone who creates their own analysis from the data, compared to then maybe a policy influencer, who is someone who uses the data for benchmarking and comparison to influence policy decisions. And maybe there's quite a few of us on this call today who maybe resonate with that type of persona. Equally, one of the other kind of key assets that we have within the GovUK design system are these accessible personas. So here I've only included 4, but there are actually quite a few others. So you can see, without me reading kind of each one individually, with between the kind of Claudia, Ashley, Salim, and Pavel, that they all have these different access needs. And the importance of this is really helping the team to empathize with different ways in which different users may struggle to interact with the dashboard. So I think we can all see from our own perspective things that maybe we need when we interact with digital services. So maybe we need glasses, maybe we use screen readers, maybe we have kind of a full range of accessibility adjustments that help us to interact with digital services. And this is something that's really key for me, and I'm really trying to do my best to get right with the dashboard. So next we have addressing the risky assumptions, and that's a really key thing with the user-centered approach. It's trying to be, I think, really open-minded about what are the risky assumptions, so that we can work with them and make sure that we're addressing them. So with these 4, so the first is around user research. It's actually proven that there is a need for a dashboard. And I think that's maybe something that the COVID-19 response has generated, that there is this public desire to be informed about healthcare data and remain kind of informed about what's going on. So one-on-one interviews and focus groups have been used, and they really demonstrated pain points for users around being unable to find relevant data. I think if we're in kind of a research community, if maybe we're epidemiologists or we have that data to hand, it's very different to people who maybe aren't able to access that data. So one of the key focuses of this dashboard is bringing that all in one place so that users don't need to spend excessive amounts of time trying to kind of find all of that data. The second one, the UKHSA data dashboard, should be built in a way that iterates on the positive experiences of the COVID-19 dashboard. So some of the key things that I've tried to maintain are the same kind of look and feel of the dashboard, but also trying to improve upon that and really iterate so that the users get a better user experience. For the third point, to create a greater sense of trust in the dashboard, that's been one of the really key focuses around the data. So the UKHSA data dashboard should display things like data sources to reassure users where the data actually comes from, and that will help to generate confidence in the data and build a sense of trust in the dashboard. A lot of it is an ongoing process, so hopefully this is something that we can fine-tune and do better with time as well. And lastly, user testing and engaging with stakeholders remains to be a key focus for the future development of the UKHSA data dashboard. And this will help to ensure that we meet the diverse needs of different users and the broad user base is kept with their needs being met. So next I wanted to include an empathy map. So this is something that I use in my team to really facilitate that process of understanding what the user says, thinks, doesn't, feels. It's quite difficult to articulate sometimes. I think a lot of us have maybe preconceptions around what we think our users want or how our users kind of think, how they understand data, but it's actually quite difficult. And by by doing this kind of empathy mapping exercise, it really helps us to think more broadly around what we're doing and making sure that we're acting in the right direction. So following on from that, this is quite a high level kind of journey map. So creating these, I really enjoy them. I think it kind of abstracts a lot of the detail away, but it helps the team to focus more broadly on what type of user journey some of the users may go on. So to go from one page to the next and really look at the service in a much kind of broader, abstract way and think how it all fits together. But this is definitely an ongoing process, and hopefully we can kind of make sure we're doing the best we can. So next I've tried to include, I'll flick through, it's basically screenshots from where the dashboard has gone from and where we are now. So it's been quite a process. Hopefully these pictures show. And so when I first joined the team, we were using Word to prototype, which as far as design goes, it's maybe not the best tool. Then kind of in response to changing needs, we've done some HTML and CSS prototyping. So I created prototypes that were basically websites that the users could have a look at and change, and it would really facilitate discussion across the team. And then lastly, what we've been using more recently is Figma. So by using Figma, I'd be able to mock up a quick design, take that to users, and really explore different ideas and make sure that what we're doing is in line with what users expect to see. And the next, I've kind of just got a bit of a summary of all the different bits that I've kind of gone into the iteration through design. So the focus of designing the new UKHSA data dashboard has been to iterate the COVID-19 dashboard by simplifying the service. And that's been achieved through addressing pain points and ensuring users understand the data that's being presented. The iterating approaches have kind of included quite a lot of different tools, and it's definitely an ongoing process of making sure that we're doing the best that we can do. And I think lastly to that is the multidisciplinary approach. It's such a big tool that it's taken the collaboration from across the group in order to achieve this. So yeah, that's pretty much the presentation. Is quite, as people have alluded to before, there's quite a lot to pack into a 10-minute presentation. But these are kind of some of the takeaways that I wanted to end with. I think, first of all, to reinforce that the COVID-19 dashboard played an important role during the pandemic, and it's created this user behavior and interest in healthcare-related data. And the new UKHSA data dashboard will help us to make sure that we're meeting this need. But it's very much an open-ended question of where that goes. I think going on from kind of the idea that we're now living with COVID, and we have this openness around maybe what's next or what other kind of threats and diseases we need to be ready for or aware of. The next point is the new UKHSA dashboard has been built following standards, patterns, and best practices, and that's something that I'm really delighted to see, that we've really tried to do the best to improve what we have. And then lastly, that the team has tried to be kind of much more aligned with government DDAT structure and following best practices. So that's all I have prepared.